Significant rain is forecast for southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales, with the worst of the conditions expected tomorrow. The New South Wales mid-north coast and northern rivers areas received heavy rain overnight, with 118 millimetres recorded in Coffs Harbour in less than 24 hours. Reporter Karen Thomas is at Port Macquarie on the New South Wales mid-north coast, joining us now. Karen, what's the situation there where you are at the moment?
Well, at the moment, all eyes are kind of on the Bellinger River, just a little to the north of Port Macquarie. It's actually southwest of Coffs Harbour. There's a minor flood warning current there. That's for today. So what the Bureau of Meteorology is telling us is that at Thora and Bellingen, the river could reach a minor flood peak there at around 6 o'clock this evening. And then looking into Monday and Tuesday next week, that raises to a moderate to major flood level for those areas. That's a possibility there. And when that happens, people in those areas could see things like bridges going under and some of the evacuation routes going under, and also some inundation of low-lying farming areas. So far in this area, kind of from Port Macquarie North, where we're seeing the impacts of this weather system, that's the only flood warning that we have. We do, however, have a number of flood watches. So those are current for rivers from Port Macquarie and the Hastings River, where I am today, right up north to the Tweed and the Rouse rivers in that border area with Queensland. So they are just flood watches at the moment. They haven't been escalated to that level of being a flood warning. But this weather system has just brought a pretty incredible amount of rain with it already, and there's still quite a lot to come. We were hearing from the Bureau earlier this morning that from the areas north of Kempsey, there could be as much as 50 to 80 millimetres coming for the rest of today. And as I said, that's on top of some pretty significant falls already. Now into tomorrow, there could be a slight reprieve for northern New South Wales as this system moves further into Queensland, but then from late tomorrow it's expected to really pick up again, and we could in fact see some of the heaviest falls of this weather event on Monday.
So it's quite a significant weather pattern, and potentially combined with a high tide, of course, that flood warning significant as well. When we're talking about how much rain we've already seen, how much has been falling across that area?
Yeah, as you said, this is all happening at one of the high points of the tide cycle. The spring tide is what they're calling it, and some really incredible figures. If we look at areas around Coffs Harbour, 130 to 150 millimetres fell in the 24 hours to 9 a.m. this morning. On the Bellinger River, where, as I said, there's a minor flood warning at the moment, 150 to 160 millimetres. Dorrigo had 130 millimetres, 200 millimetres for Bowraville recorded at the Bureau's gauge there. 50 millimetres around Kempsey, but more expected there today. Here where I am on the Hastings, it's figures around 70 to 90 millimetres until 9 a.m. this morning, and a little bit further north, around 120 millimetres at some locations in the Brunswick River catchment, and at Lennox Head about 120 millimetres there as well.
So Karen, with so much water pushing through the river systems in that area, what's been the message from the State Emergency Service?
The main message from the SES really is, if your home is safe, stay there. If you don't have a good reason to go out, just stay at home. Let's hear a little bit from the SES now.
There's a lot of rain that we've seen in the last 24 hours, and a lot to come. Our SES units on the ground are proactively working with their local communities to make sure they're aware of the risks. And we're really urging communities to stay vigilant, keep an eye and an ear out on your local weather forecast, and heed any advice that you may be given.
And so far the SES hasn't been called to too many jobs, which is a good thing. There's just been some, minor leaking on roofs and things like that. And importantly, they haven't been called to any flood rescues yet, but they are prepared for that if it happens. But, of course, hoping it doesn't, and warning people not to drive, walk or ride through floodwaters. That's the message we get whenever this kind of event is underway, and remains important at the moment. Bridges can have damage of them that you just can't see when there's floodwaters floodwaters over the top, and you just don't know what kind of debris and other contaminants could be in floodwater, so important to be careful there. And also just a warning for tourists and visitors to this region. Some areas are already on school holidays, and caravan parks and other holiday accommodation is filling up. So for those people that don't know how things can play out in this local area, and everyone really, is really just being encouraged to stay on top of what the SES is saying and stay safe.
Our reporter Karen Thomas there in Port Macquarie, keeping us across that developing story.